Hello, my name is Claire Barrett, and I'm delighted to join you today to talk about getting the numbers for API-driven transformation to add up. By way of introduction, I manage a consulting business, APIsFirst, based in the UK. I'm the global leader of the Women in APIs community and a proud co-founder of the API Collective. I'm going to talk today about three things that contribute to realizing value from API investment. When I talk about numbers, I mean the investments that people are making, the costs, the spend, where that we are hearing from many of our clients and peers in the community around the API space that they are challenged with actually realizing the value from the investment that they started. So I'm going to talk about why it's important, and I'm going to share views on why we see people's investments falling short of the requirements that they have, but for those who are realizing the promise of APIs, what they're doing to have got right. The sorts of frustrations that we hear people sharing are here. There are things like they have been investing in gateways, API management systems. They've been migrating to them, but they're still finding that it costs more to actually run them than they expected. They're finding that perhaps the requirements that they'd had of delivering faster, better cost change is not actually happening at the pace that they'd expected. They're struggling to get people interested and supportive of investment. These are just some of the things that we're hearing in the space. The reason why people want the numbers to add up is they are acting as teams, as it could be API program leads, it could be API management functions, basically the center of gravity for API work in an organization. And they are finding it's hard to get continuous and of the right value of funding investment. There's perhaps struggling to know where to focus the team on which API related priority is the most important for them, or they are challenged with actually being able to show the numbers and value of the work that they're doing. When I'm talking about numbers in terms of on the cost side, what sort of things am I talking about here? They fall into four groups. There's spend that is being made on API management platforms, on getting the standards, the governance processes, the practices in place for APIs to be successful. There are there's spend being made on training, education, getting different types of stakeholders up to speed and working on the space. There are people spending on API activity associated with projects or with IT-related change. This is designing APIs, building, engineering, deploying them. They're also spending time and effort working on APIs that will enable other business plans and strategies to come together. So this could be create the kind of creative, innovative work around embedded business opportunities, products, API products, customers, and so on. So this is where people are investing, and they're basically spending a lot around APIs, the capabilities and tooling to support them. And people want to keep that funding going at a point in time when there is often, particularly in medium, large size organizations, a lot of competition for that funding. And it seems to be getting ever greater. So while we might look at things such as the API landscape of tooling and technology, well supported at conferences here like Apidays Paris and others in the program, there is a huge amount of opportunity out there to look for different types of capabilities that will support things, but arguably that level of choice is not actually necessarily making it easier, could actually be making it harder. And this is an environment for many people asking for money to invest in their API program, their API tooling capabilities, etc. At the same time as there is funding pressures coming on the same people from doing more with less, being more efficient, more productive in technology and change in business processes, the time when there's a growing pressure on regulation, privacy, security standards, everybody's under pressure with time, and that even arguably the external geopolitical environment, leaving people uncertain, unsure, and wanting to see faster results and returns. Arguably, this could be contributing to the kinds of headlines that we see around about people's challenges with achieving the value from maybe their broader digital transformation agendas, or the cynicism or perceived kind of failure rates. Although I'd argue that there's perhaps some work to do to get below the numbers to actually understand where those numbers are coming from. And I think that is where some of the reality of the good work that people are getting and the great results that they're getting from their API related investments are perhaps being lost in a bigger picture, or a bigger set of more broader, maybe less specific expectations, and contributing why perhaps the reality of the promise of APIs is not getting there. So what we often find in many organizations is people spend a lot of time and can get quite specific and agreed on what they want to spend, but they can, and in fact, they may be spending a huge amount of effort, days, weeks, it can go to even months, on very detailed cost options and in timetables of investments and requirements, spend on different types of vendors and solutions and implementation approaches. And then at the very last minute almost, or it feels like it sometimes, a very small amount of time on where the benefits might be something just very broad. We want to spend X amounts of hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars on blah, with lots and lots of detail. And then we'll get 5% better in blah. We'll be able to deliver our IT investment portfolio faster. We'll be able to achieve all these kinds of revenue savings. And that feels sometimes like it can be a little bit of an afterthought, when in actually, not even such an afterthought, it just doesn't seem to get the same level of scrutiny and attention. Where are people that are doing this well looking for these benefits and trying to quantify them? They're talking about using APIs to help them establish new markets or new distribution channels. So making the apples into different types of restaurant offerings, as well as retail market products. They're looking at APIs to enable them to deliver change faster through their organization. And by, for example, having a more composable modular architecture, they're looking to simplify and make their tech landscape less complex, so that they can get more of their day-to-day change invested in things that will actually benefit customers and colleagues and opportunities, as opposed to rewiring and not leaving behind technical debt. And I think some of the challenges people have is beautifully summed up in this advert that I saw once on the Paris Metro, which in just 10 words was able to describe for what they were marketing here, which was effectively an online training program, delivery platform and training experience, that the online classes themselves could be virtual, but the student's progress, it's real, or it's the true outcome they get. Now, if I was involved in justifying investment in the platform to support this training experience, I might be able to, with the right work and attention, be able to show how having the platform would increase something concrete like participation rates, the degree to which whether people finish the courses, how many people get certified, even be quite mathematical about the feedback, analytical about the feedback that comes from those students, and be able to quantify and measure that. But whether or not they actually made progress towards the career they wanted, the learning experience they were looking for, big difference between having the certificate and a real feeling of success. And that's what I call direct benefits that can be delivered by the platform and are measurable, versus indirect benefits, which are like another step beyond. If you're making investment in APIs, you're talking about investing in and justifying the direct benefits. It's to be very clear that you're not trying to contribute to those indirect ones. So if we go back to those things that we talked about that are where the costs are coming from in API, where people are investing in API related stuff, they're investing in these enablers, they're investing in these stakeholders. These are certainly direct costs, and they are also things that can deliver direct benefits. So the APIs may be delivered maybe more internally or externally. They could be more discoverable because you've implemented the right kind of portal. They may be of higher standard because you've put in place the right governance process. You could have a higher degree of awareness and greater take-up through the education and training you're making. So those are all direct benefits you could talk about. But I argue that the API enablement for tech change, and even broader, the API types of products that you might be looking for investment, are often indirect benefits. In other words, if you are planning to invest every year $100 in IT-related change, and you have simplified your architecture and made it more composable with APIs so that you can get more change done through the tooling and the platforms and the systems and the processes and the governance, that isn't actually going to deliver you a direct benefit. What it does mean is that $100 that you might want to spend next year, you can actually spend on more features and more, you can get more projects done or more change done with that $100. You're not actually realizing it as a bottom line benefit, unless you're impacting the investment slate as a whole. Likewise, if there is a business strategy that is looking to take APIs as products to help or API opportunities to help you partner differently, go to a new customer market, establish stronger, better partnership relationships, those are business plans and priorities which are enabled through APIs, but the real justification for those should be tightly coupled with the business plans for those projects. They should be part of that commercial proposition. And my argument is that they're not typically things that you can get a direct, attributed direct justification from. There is a bit of an exception, which I'll talk about in a minute. When people shortcut the efforts and time that they spend into building the benefits case, they can, if they take a shortcut, they can end up with what I call the evaporating business case, where the promise of what was expected doesn't tend to arrive because it's been too vague or too unclear. And I have seen many examples in my career of people putting forward a great idea enabled by tech, which has actually changed behavior just by exposing the problem that it was put in to do. And that's actually meant that by the time the initiative's been delivered, the business case was no longer there. So what are the organizations doing right that are getting on top of this and getting their API numbers to add up, and importantly, are delivering benefits? I'd argue that they're spending the time not just on getting the investment case approved and going on beyond the permission of actually getting started. So they're not just thinking about the change and the acceptance that they need to get that funding. They're actually thinking about how to do the work. What they're delivering on and successful with is they're focusing. We see 5 common themes for the people that are really getting success from their API investment. Those themes are around customer, product, process, engineering, and culture and mindset. I'll talk about each of them very quickly. Firstly, organizations that are really getting great traction and results with their API programs deeply understand that engineers are a type of customer in their own right. So for those who are obviously familiar with those who are already invested in or watching and doing more in things like delivering portals or APIs that are discoverable in discoverable internally or externally. Those are this is already very much a kind of well and understood mantra, but the organizations that recognize engineers internally and in other organizations that they want to partner with beyond the boundaries of today's enterprise, those are the ones who are really seeing benefits from the API economy, because they are developing APIs in a way that these engineers are personas, similar to the way perhaps they might develop mobile apps or other kinds of experiences that are more familiar. Secondly, they're understanding APIs as products, and they're investing in those and designing them as such. They recognize the engineering disciplines, as well as, which is everything from DevOps to, in the cloud, to security, to good standards and disciplines, that the things they need to have right for APIs are also the things that they're getting right for their software engineering practices, with typically more capability brought in-house, with strong disciplines around engineering, which is giving them throughput and flow. They see that from a people and process perspective, that API design is very much a team activity. It's very much collaborative. I call it a team sport. And they are building teams of both business and technology people to operate and work together to collaborate. And they are culturally embedding API first as part of their mindset from the outset, and really thinking about APIs at very early stage conceptually, as opposed to just another way to integrate downstream. So if I was to go back to that example of the student online platform that was on the Paris Metro, I'll use that as an example to show where some of their benefit pools may or may not come from part of their API investment. So if I was an organization, was delivering that student platform offering, that might be one of many types of digital or even semi-digital products that they're offering out to the marketplace. They might be able to offer their customers by working on, let's say, for example, the API enablement for that piece. They could offer maybe better onboarding experience for students. They might increase completion rates. They might have some product propositions that they're making around, if this was a platform that they're offering to B2B, to business customers, that those customers might be able to onboard more easily by using their APIs into their learning platforms. They may be able to offer a faster onboarding for engineers. They might be able to improve code quality. They might be offering APIs as reuse, etc. Maybe they're even delivering some APIs as products themselves that other platforms could use and consume. From all of those things, most of which are internally focused, I would argue that potentially only the direct API revenues coming from a product are the ones that are going to make a real difference, that you could actually justify in that kind of initiative. In summary, benefits for APIs are indirect will come from revenue growth, profitability, better growth, higher productivity, efficiency, client satisfaction, conversion rates. Even those are not directly attributable, and what's even less direct could be the opportunity for broader societal impact, client success, talent inclusivity, etc. So if I was to summarize takeouts for you today, if you want to be able to manage accountability for benefits, you've got to be very clear between what's direct versus what's indirect. You need to focus on customer, product, process, team culture, things to be successful in your API program, to be able to deliver on the benefits that you expect. And don't forget that actually working out where you're getting value from with your API initiative does involve work, and that work is as much art as it is science. So thank you very much. And if you would like to know more about how to get results from your AP investment, please make sure you download the ebook that is available for you in partnership that I've written with Treble.com at their ebooks online site. The link is there in the slide, www.treble.com ebooks/API investment. And if you would like to talk or hear more about how we are realizing actual API potential, do contact me on LinkedIn. My details are here, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much.